This is a butterfly knife. And this is a Karambit knife. Now these might look familiar because I already made 2 videos on them. You should go check them out. But in those videos I used my right hand, and today I'm going to use my left hand. Now let's start with the butterfly knife. Now you may be wondering, what is a butterfly knife? A butterfly knife is a foldable knife, but this one has no blade because it's illegal. Now to start with, we're going to be learning the basic open. To do this, you just twist the knife out, opening it. The basic open isn't meant to be too difficult. It's meant to just open the knife so then you can use it. But it felt very unnatural using my left hand. After not too long, it all started to come together, but this one wasn't meant to take too long. It's not supposed to be too difficult. You just need to be able to do this one so we can move on to the next one. But before moving on, here's a fun little comment left on my first video. In fact, thank you guys a lot. This channel has been growing and I love to see the community it's built. Anyway, moving on, this next trick is called the rollover, or the thumb rollover. This involves holding it in a pinch position and swinging it around your thumb and then catching the safe handle. Although this wasn't the hardest trick to learn on my right hand, I found this one was the most difficult on my left. I struggled a lot dropping the knife and I was afraid I was going to break it on the concrete. I just had to keep on practicing, because with everything, as long as you practice, you'll eventually get there. And after some time, it started to come together. I kept on practicing till it became all one fluent motion. And now it was time to move on to the last trick. This trick is called the full twirl. It involves spinning the knife over one of my fingers, spinning it around, and then catching it again open. This one is definitely a hard trick, but just like the rollover, you just have to keep on practicing and eventually you'll get it. That's with anything, as long as you put your mind to it, you'll get it. Now if you enjoy this kind of content, please leave a like and subscribe. My last video did amazing and I just want to thank everybody who subscribed. I'm hoping on growing this channel and becoming bigger and bigger. So your support is much appreciated and I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year. Alright, back to the video, and things are going great. Everything was coming together and I was finally done to move on to the next knife. But before moving on to the next knife, I have to put all moves together. Next is the Karambit knife. Unlike the butterfly knife, the Karambit knife is actually sharp, so there is a risk of me hurting myself. Starting with the basics, I gotta learn how to spin the knife in my left hand, just on my finger for now, because later on, we're gonna have to use this in all our tricks. Moving on to another one of the basics, just learning to twirl it in your hand, backwards and forwards, bouncing it off the back of your fingers back into your hand. And then this time spinning it all the way around, not hitting our fingers. Our first trick is going to be called the revolver, which involves bouncing it off your hand onto your thumb and then catching it again. This one didn't take too long to get and I got it going pretty fast. Now since the basics are over, we can start with our first hard trick. The rodeo. The rodeo involves spinning the blade up in the air, spinning it down and then catching it in my hand. This one didn't take too long and it was just a mixture of the basics. After securing this one, we can move on to the next trick, which is the double roll. The double roll involves doing one roll out and then a movement with your hand, making it look like you've done a second roll. It was a lot trickier doing it with my left hand just because it wasn't a very natural movement, but after some practice, I got it. And we can move on to the last one, the thumb switch. Now this one I struggled the most with on my right hand, and that was no different for my left. This is by far the hardest. Every time I spun it on my thumb, I was terrified the blade was going to fly off and either hit me or break on the ground. But I kept on going, being very careful, making sure to keep a good grip on the blade. I had to keep on going as this was the last trick and I was so close to the end, but unfortunately I did end up dropping the knife. But the blade was fine. It was a little bit dirty, but the knife itself was fine. I finished cleaning off the blade and kept on going, spinning it on all my fingers, when I noticed that every time I spun it, I was so close to cutting myself. It kept grazing my arm and I was terrified. But after hours of determination, I got it. Learning to use both these knives on my left hand was definitely a challenge, and I'd highly recommend trying to learn things on your non-dominant hand. It's a fun challenge and a good way to pass time. If you enjoyed this kind of video, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and also, I feel like this goes without saying, don't go buy a knife and try this yourself. Try with a practice one first, because you're going to get hurt. Thanks for watching.